Tumetoka analog tuko digital. Tumetoka analog tuko digital. Tuko digital. Tuko digital.
In the Kenyan digital space, new forms of entertainment have emerged through the years. Over a decade ago, before 2013, it was mainly music and TV programs that served this purpose. Remember, on a Wednesday night at 7 p.m., there was something common in almost every Kenyan household. It wasn't strange to hear this Machachari theme song play in unison in apartment houses. Well, not only Machachari, other programs like Tahidi High, Vitimbi, Inspector Mwala were popular. I remember as a school kid, after the noon break, rushing home to catch up with the cartoon programs that started at the same time on channels like Citizen TV, KBC, KTN, and others. Spider-Man was my favorite, and if I got bored watching it, there was Ben 10. Not forgetting Action Night around 11 p.m. past the time my parents were asleep. My parents could force me to sleep for the next school day, but I snuck back into the living room to watch the action movies. The likes of Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan were popular faces on this program. If you had a sister, that was a problem because she wants to watch Afro Cinema and you want to watch Action Night. Afro Cinema aired the Nigerian films. How to win this was to conceal the TV remote controller earlier. The problem arose if your mom also wanted to watch Afro Cinema. You had no option since you were overpowered. There is this particular channel called UTV that appeared on our TV once in a blue moon literally. We had to twist the aerial above the house in different directions so as to pick its signal. However, picking up its signal wasn't success since there could be glitches and it was unwatchable. You would then do manual scanning on the TV multiple times before it picked a signal. So getting it to work perfectly was a task. If it did work though, it was worth it since that's where, as a family, we watched an Anaconda film which had my mom screaming due to her fear of snakes. Matter of fact, most animals. When we moved to this particular house, we had a pet cat and she always complained about it, so she demanded we let it loose. As I spent most time with it, I took it inside a sack, spun it multiple times and released it to a random direction with such a great force. Wherever the cat is, I'm so sorry. It was a rare moment for us to come together and watch as a family, given it was late past 10 p.m. What we watched together mostly was a series of novella TV programs that lasted months before another series started. Here I'm talking about mostly European series like Storm Over Paradise. I know my dad never liked this, but hey, when it comes to pleasing our women, whatever chance we get to participate in what they like. This novella series consisted of some erotic scenes since they were rated PG, and whenever these scenes started, there was an awkward silence, or mom started a story to draw attention from the TV, or she started rebuking us. Mnaona vitu mnaangalia? Yet she was the one who asked us to select the program. This set of programs aired in a set time schedule. Then 2010 came and this was time for the boys. The 2010 FIFA World Cup that saw Spain lift the trophy in South Africa. The women in the family had all the other time on the TV, but whenever a World Cup match started, it was the men's time. Nowadays, I don't even know if these programs exist, especially the local programs. It's understandable given it's been over 10 years, so something had to change. But what was this change that stole the hype that the once popular programs had? I am Leo Zaresa, I do investigative reports, and thank you all once again, family. The channel is finally monetized, and the proceeds will be used to improve the quality of the videos, especially the sound. There are other ways you can support the channel by joining the membership, super thanks to show appreciation, watching the ads, and donations through PayPal or M-Pesa. Details on the description. Otherwise, like and subscribe for more videos like this. It's crucial to establish how Kenyans consumed content. In the early 2000s, it was the television, broadcasting, and multimedia players. Television broadcasting is the distribution of audiovisual content to the public via electronic means such as cables, the airwaves, or satellites. A popular broadcasting means in Kenya then was the terrestrial TV or over-the-air TV. This is a type of television broadcasting in which the content is transmitted via radio waves from Earth-based transmitter of a TV station to a TV receiver having an antenna. A TV antenna, also called TV aerial, is an antenna designed to be used specifically with TV receiver to intercept radio waves from the desired TV station and convert them to tiny radio frequency alternating currents which are applied to the TV tuner, which extracts the TV signal. There are two types of antennas, indoor and outdoor. However, the outdoor antenna was popular in Kenya. These are designed to be mounted on a mast on top of the owner's house. TV stations in Kenya include KBC, Citizen TV, KTN, and K24. KBC is the first TV station in Kenya, launched in October 1962. There are two types of transmission signals, analog and digital. The analog signal is transmitted directly to the TV, where the digital signal needs to be decoded first. This allows error corrections such as data compression to be made to the signal for obtaining extra features such as extra channels, EPG, pay TV, interactive games, and more. Around 2003, in a village, there could be very few people owning Great Wall TVs whose display was black and white. Starting in 2006, many countries in the world switched from broadcasting using an older analog television standard to newer digital TV. Kenya is a developing country, so it takes time before new technology from outside is implemented. Satellite transmission was available in Kenya from 1995, provided by DSTV, owned by MultiChoice, that partnered with Kenyan Broadcasting Corporation. This was accessed by the elites due to high costs compared to terrestrial TV. In the early 2000s, multimedia players were extensively used in Kenya. These play digital media files from a storage device or a disk. The well-off afforded the media players since there is severe poverty in Kenya. You would think it has changed, but 63% of Kenya's population lives below the international poverty line. However, in the lower class families, some had their hands on these players. Among the first types of storage units were the cassette tapes. This is analog magnetic tape recording format for audio recording and playback. It was inserted in a music player with a compartment that would open and close with a slight press. The music player would feature radio playing capability with a smaller antenna capable of being twisted and adjusted in length to gain signal. Brian was from a Christian household and his parents played local songs by artists like Bana Sungusia, Misa Ongengo, Kativoi Mwene, Ken wa Maria, Neema Mwaipopo, Munishi, Boni Mwaitege, Angela Chibalonza, Apostle Kiande, just to mention a few. He was about 7 years old and influenced by whatever his parents did, and this included the songs. One time I could enter their house and find Tinda Tine by Lady Mariam playing. Sometimes Jangu by Obsession Girls, Shida za Dunia by Jose Chameleon, Usiende Mbali by Juliana Kanyamozi, let's say the songs that dominated the airwaves. Sometimes, due to his curious nature, he would play with the cassettes and dismantle the tape, making it unusable. He knew it was over. The only thing he could do was throw away the particular cassette. But if the parents ever knew it was missing, he would face the wrath. His sister played different types of music like Solidad by Westlife, Longoma's Queen, Noah Baby by Flavor, Love is Wicked by Brick and Lace, more of the secular vibe. The mom thought that these videos weren't suitable for the kids viewing. One time she found the two watching a DJ Lighter mix, basically dancehall songs in one compact disc. She had her hands on the disc and crushed it, making it unusable. At this point, the cassette tapes were losing popularity due to their delicate tape nature. CDs and DVDs were becoming popular. The TVs had a colored display. The player could be connected to the TV through AV cables. It was almost obvious you just needed to match the end colors to the same port colors, usually red, white, and yellow. Later, HDMI cables could be used in place of this. The layout of most households was similar. You have a large wooden TV cabinet with multiple compartments, and the TV is placed at the middle. The multimedia player was placed on the lower, smaller compartment just below the TV. Sometimes relatives stormed the house. Brian and his sister had no chance to watch TV. On one occasion, Brian's uncle, the brother to his mother, visited to have a talk with the mom. There was this sofa set. If you sat properly, you are at a 90 degrees angle to the TV. You had to turn your head to watch the TV. The person who sat on the end seat of the sofa nearest to the TV enjoyed an interrupted view, hence it was preferred. Whenever the uncle came through, he displaced whoever he found on the seat, mostly Brian or the sister, so that he could occupy it. So Brian and the sister had enough of this. Before the recent visit, they planted many wooden toothpicks on the spongy seat of that particular one. They were not visible since the sponge cover concealed them. Once they saw their uncle entering the house, they left to play. They knew something happened but weren't sure. It became clear when they came back home and found mommy waiting for them, not in a good mood obviously. As usual, whenever mom wanted to chastise them, she did so while shouting. What happened next was slippers landing on their face with such a large force, followed by mom pouncing on you like a cat. Brian saw this coming, so he dashed below the bed since he knew mom had gained weight recently and couldn't easily go below the bed. Even if she did, Brian could come out and find an easy escape. The sister received the wrath, partly because she was the eldest. To avoid this conflict, whenever people visited the house, Brian and the sister could go and play with other kids outside. There were many games back then. Another one was called Kati. It involved a participant jumping on one foot with a stone carried on the narrow side of the forehand, sometimes on top of the head. The aim was to jump on drawn patterns, usually triangles and rectangles, without letting the stone fall. The patterns were drawn using charcoal. This was also a problem since the neighbor adjacent to the corridor drawn wouldn't be impressed by the dirt and game noise. The Kati game was mostly preferred by girls, and Brian seemed like an outsider. The game he found love in was the police and robber, whose time was at night. Players, mostly boys, would form two teams, one for the police and the other for robbers. It started by the robbers being given chance to flee, then the police went after them. There was a zone, typically in a central position, where the captured robbers could be held with hands raised. The fun part is that one of the robbers, the courageous one, could make an attempt to free the captured by tapping you. This was risky, and mostly, if successful, it resulted into a substitute, the courageous one taking the place of the initial robber in the captive. There were many games, others like Brikicho, basically hide and seek, where you could hear the pursuer yelling Brikicho, and the seeked guy would respond Baantule while finding a hiding spot. I have never known if those are the correct words for this game. You can confirm them for me. Regardless of these active games, the multimedia entertainment stood out for kids. There were movie spots. You could pay 10 Kenyan shillings for a movie, and they had a schedule running from morning about 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. The schedule was written using chalk on a blackboard outside the movie spot, usually time and the movie name. There was an offer, for example, watch 5 and get 1 free. Inside the movie spots, the arrangement was similar to stadiums, with a TV mounted at a raised height on the front wall. The sitting spots were benches in an ascending order from the front to the back. American and Chinese action movies dominated playtime. Movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator, Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, and Jet Li's Feast of Legend were popular and could be repeated after a while. These movies had a commentary by guys called DJs. Notable ones include DJ Afro Amigos and DJ Smith.
Lazima nisababishe. Logo, unataka kuambia Kubi already mambo yamekuwa ni hatari. Makosa.
They were liked probably because they did the commentary in Swahili, Sheng and Agikuyu, easier to understand for locals. Bran visited the sports and his sister barely joined him since the sports were frequented by males. The same sports aired football games by having DSTV subscriptions. They were simply called DS, adopted from DSTV. A single game's price varies depending on the teams playing and the luxury in the sport. By this I mean, is it in a mabati or a brick house? The space inside, air conditioning including fans, since due to large numbers the atmosphere could get too hot. Guys removing their shirts was common. A high-profile game like Arsenal vs Manchester United could start from 50 Kenyan shillings going up to about 100 Kenyan shillings. Later, a new form of movies emerged, Indian movies, and this time DJ Afro was the popular commentator. These Indian films were liked for their exaggeration in stunts, the likes of Magadhera featuring Ram Charan, Bahubali featuring Prabhas, just to mention a few. The films were in CDs and DVDs sold by a guy in a kibanda structure. This guy was called Ma-DVD or Wama CD. Usually, the discs are contained in a folded hardcover paper, sealed in a transparent slim paper. The hardcover is printed showing the movies contained in the disc with a graphic representation of actors as well. The slim transparent paper had a sticky part at the bottom for containing the disc not to fall. The disc is then contained in a finer white translucent paper. These discs were delicate and a single scratch could affect the viewing experience. Since glitches, they were called scratches, could come up, sometimes severe to prevent the continuation of the movie. You could try wiping the back side of the disc with a fine clean cloth to remove the dirt, and it worked most of the times. When the storage papers were lost, the circular discs could be stored in a plastic cylindrical chamber that had a lock mechanism at the bottom securing the discs in place. The hollow middle part of the disc goes through a pole-like stand inside the cylindrical chamber. A difference between CDs and DVDs stood out. This was on the back side of the discs. DVDs had shiny bluish color while CDs had a dull shiny appearance when exposed to light. DVD players accepted both DVDs and CDs, while CD players played CDs and rejected DVDs. Most of us never knew the explanation to this, as parents bought the players not reading their specifications. As kids, we thought that some players had some superpowers than others when this happened. But later in high school, in computer studies lessons, it became clear. Too much of something becomes boring. To balance watching films, Bran played video games. He bought a popular handset called Brick Game by saving coins he received from his dad. The Brick Game had games like Tetris, which involved joining block puzzles. He then purchased another mechanical handset game that had a screen filled with water inside. There were about 3 poles and many rainbow-colored rings. There were buttons which, when pressed, exerted a jumping force on the rings. The goal was to arrange the rings into the poles within a short time. While visiting a primary school classmate one day, Bran noticed them playing a game on their DVD player and TV. They had a game disc smaller in size than the normal CDs and DVDs, which fitted in the inner player disc compartment. Apparently, the player came with 2 gamepads. Most games were 2D dual player, which involved controlling the characters through puzzles of land and water. One player would fail in the game and depend on the other player to play long enough to bring him back to life. The classmates' TV had inbuilt games like Tetris, which used the remote controller or TV buttons as the gamepad. Bran's house TV and DVD lacked the inbuilt games capability. Due to this, the classmates' house became heaven, and Bran could wake up early in the morning, about 6 a.m., even before breakfast was prepared, and visit the friend whereby about 4 kids would play in turn until evening. That's when he could go back home about 6 p.m. Once in a while, he went back home during lunch break. After lunch, the destination was the same, classmates' house. He prayed not to find the mom at home since that implied war. Mount punishment was using a wooden pan for preparing chapatis to knock his knees and elbow bones. The gaming routine happened during weekends and on holidays when the school session wasn't ongoing. For the viewing experience and playing video games, most of this required electricity. Brian's neighborhood is what in Kenya they termed as the slums. Many houses were made of iron sheets with a small proportion of high-rise brick houses. Most of the informal settlements in Kenya border affluent neighborhoods. For example, Karen and Kibera, Mukuru kwa Njenga and Imara Daima, just to mention a few. The electricity supply in affluent areas is defined with transmission lines from KPLC, which transmits, distributes and retails electricity to customers throughout Kenya. The same transmission was meant to be in the informal settlements, but on the ground things were different. Electricity transmissions in slums involve Sambaza technique. This word is adopted from Safaricom airtime transfer to other users. There is also Sambaza data, Sambaza seats in matatus, Sambaza Wi-Fi and more. Sambaza electricity works by cartels illegally attaching wires to main transmission lines, distributing them to local households at a fee like 200 Kenyan shillings per month. These cartels work in a hierarchy, as in there are top-ranking ones and lower-ranking ones who did the house electricity installation. KPLC guys do crackdowns, arresting Sambaza cartels and confiscating the cables and wires, leaving neighborhoods in darkness. However, the cartels would reconnect the transmission within time. Most of the times, the cartels knew about the crackdown by having informants, maybe in the KPLC corporation, or spotters who told them whenever they saw the KPLC entourage in the neighborhood. These cartels are mostly associated with the Kisii tribe, and the same story of electricity applies in water transmission, whereby in neighborhoods without proper water pipe networks, cartels transmitted water, sometimes bought and resold or hijacked from main city council lines. Hijacking water and electricity from main lines was done during the devil's hours, at the middle of the night. Sometimes the KPLC crackdown could intensify, maybe due to the reform of the management and the new heads were strict. There were rumors that bribery was involved. The intense crackdowns would leave the whole neighborhood in darkness for months. If you failed to pay for electricity, the cartels could send their workers to cut off the supply to your house. However, most guys became clever and reconnected the wire, making it a game of cutting and connecting. This Sambaza electricity is cheaper but comes with a cost. Sometimes fire breakouts due to malfunction and damage of electric equipment could occur due to uncontrolled voltage which fluctuates. The Mabati houses made the scenario worse in times of fire, and the arrival of fire brigade wasn't dependable, since by the time they arrive, almost all property is burnt to ashes. Brian found another gaming avenue. The PS2 was becoming popular together with cyber places that offered Windows-installed games like Need for Speed. The cyber spots also offered internet surfing opportunities at a cost. Popular PS2 games include Pro Evolution Soccer, which is a soccer game. At first, most people couldn't afford the consoles, so the only place you could play this was spots called PlayStations. A standard game at these spots was set to 5 or 10 minutes at a price of 10 Kenyan shillings. You could play alone with a computer side or with a friend. Most of the times one person paid for another. This they called friendly. Sometimes players challenged each other in a battle called loser pay, which is obvious. If you lose, you pay. The PS2 consoles worked similar to the multimedia players. There was a disc with a game such as Spider-Man, Pro Evolution Soccer or FIFA written in it, and you could play it using wired pads while issuing commands on the buttons. PS3 later would introduce wireless controllers. If you had a friend, mostly upper class, that had the console, you would storm their house as a group and play PES tournaments. In the later versions of PlayStations, FIFA and other video games would become more popular than Pro Evolution Soccer. Apart from the game discs, there was another illegal way of launching the games. This was on a new type of storage that had stormed the market, flash disks. The ports were included on players, or they were there earlier and we just didn't notice until they became handy. Flash disks come in different storage capacity. With advancement in content consumption, now you could take the flash disk, simply called flash, to a movie spot and they could send it to you at a cheaper price. This is compared to them burning it on a CD or a DVD disc. Bran's dad had this kind of button phone with shiny silver-like body, resembling a popular car then called the Hummer. This was an upgrade since it had an inbuilt storage and could allow storage card called memory card, which, like flash disks, come in different capacity. Sometimes Bran could borrow the phone from his dad while visitors were around and watch movies which were loaded in the memory card. One day Bran took the phone and together with a sister found this new type of films. The actors were a man and a woman naked and the two watched while they thought the actors was trying to make babies. Whenever Bran and his dad visited the rural area from Nairobi, villagers stormed his dad expecting handouts as they thought as long as you are in Nairobi, you are rich. Little did they know. They also formed a crowd around the dad while watching movies from the Hammer phone. At this time, these phones were easily acquired, but most people maybe didn't afford them or they were just not convinced about the need. Some popular brands were the BlackBerry, which had many buttons and a touchscreen. It featured a bigger OK button that was also a touchpad. Smartphones had started to hit the market, but the price was expensive then and a very few people afforded them. The Hammer phone once became damaged and his dad replaced it with another button phone, but this came with a feature very vital: access to the internet through a browser. The highest speed was 2G, which was launched by Safaricom in 2003. It's a slow speed now, but during that time it was okay. He was a smart student, so while figuring how the internet works, he could search for education challenges with marks awarded after you choose an answer. He would also use this as an excuse to access the phone. Another day, Bran attended a movie spot. After a late time movie ended at about 9 p.m., the movie spot owner started chasing away kids saying, "Time ya watoto imeisha, endeni home," meaning children's time is over, go home. As Bran and the kids left, the ones that remained, the adults, some of them laughed while chanting, "Watoto tokeni," meaning kids leave. Bran's curiosity rose and he stuck around long enough until the adult movies started. Peeped through a mabati hole, and for sure they were adult movies. This time round, Bran had been exposed enough and he knew these are not just people trying to make babies. They are adult actors. The volume is lower than the regular movies one. The question is what these grown adult men did once they got aroused. Guess we will never know. Later, with the discovery from friends, they noticed media download sites called Waptrick and Tubidy. These offered media like songs and videos, also 2D video games. His father bought another phone, leaving the previous one to Brian. Now Brian bought a SIM card, registered it using his dad's ID. He couldn't own one since he was far from 18 years. During school period, the day was for class and the night was for surfing the internet, listening to music and chatting with classmates and friends. Safaricom had text messages offers, notably 200 messages for 10 Kenyan shillings and 500 messages for 20 Kenyan shillings, both lasting 24 hours. He would chat with the friends while playing a challenge they called Last Man Standing. Whoever texted last won with no prize set. If you depleted the SMS bundles earlier, you were out. The only way to restock the bundles was by buying again. Buying physical scratch cards depended on the time since shops closed early. If it was too late, the only way to restock was by Sambaza from mom's phone. This is transferring airtime from one SIM card to another. He preferred mom's phone because mom never kept track of her airtime balance and kept topping up, ending up with large amounts of airtime. She never knew how to check the balance. Bran hoped that mom had placed the phone at a distance from her not to wake her up while picking it up. The process needed to be quiet. turning both phones' mode to silent. Brian liked popular songs at the time, mostly American ones. He could download songs after hearing them play on Kiss 100 FM. He liked songs like Payphone, Dark Horse, 23, Anaconda, Headlines, Uliza Kiatu, Skeleu, Kuku, Sura Yako, Hall of Fame, Chelete, and many more. Not forgetting the phone had the Bluetooth capability and 3.5mm jackpot. Bluetooth enabled file transfer to other phones via BT connectivity. Brian would compete with a neighbor's kid on whose woofer was superior by playing loud music. He connected phone to the woofer through the jackpot and played the trending music. He would also connect the cassette player with radio option and switch to Kiss 100 FM for the music sessions. The woofers had an option of connecting to standalone speakers through cables and wires. Popular speakers at the time were Pioneer ones mounted on top of a chamber like a jerrycan or wood to give the music more bass. Later, the woofers would come with Bluetooth capabilities, eliminating need for cable connection. On August 2010, WhatsApp was available for use by Android users. 2 years later, its use increased in Kenya. Well-off kids could access phones with WhatsApp. At this time, Brian convinced his friends to join him on an app called 2Go, similar to WhatsApp at the time. It offered online chatting spaces. Reason for this was Brian's phone couldn't install WhatsApp and had 2Go installed. This didn't work for long since many people preferred WhatsApp due to its ease of use and ability to share memes, images, and video files. Fortunately, one of Brian's neighbors had a handset that wasn't powered by Android, and somehow it had WhatsApp. It was the Java version of the app. The problem is that it wasn't stable and was slow. But if that's the only option you have, what else matters? Another challenge was convincing the owner to allow him to use it overnight, given that he was also using the app. They found a solution. Apparently, the neighbor liked DC and Marvel X-Men movies, so he could watch them in Brian's house and Brian could use the phone during the nighttime. To use WhatsApp, he had to reconfigure the number from the neighbors to his. This meant loss of chats. Around 2013, consumer smartphones became affordable after companies like Safaricom partnered to distribute brands like Neon. At prices of about 5,000 Kenyan shillings, you could have a smartphone with 3G capabilities and more. After 2015, Brian was done with primary school. His dad had promised to buy him a smartphone, but was reluctant to release the funds. So Brian convinced him to give only a portion of the funds and he could raise the rest. Combined together, he went and bought the Neon phone worth 5,000 Kenyan shillings. Now he noticed other forms of entertainment, YouTube, Instagram, and more. He bought his own flash disk from a reseller. One day, while loading a movie, he was surprised by the guys opening multiple folders with adult films. One guy, the buyer, was instructing the seller on what type he wanted. The buyer seemed like a bodybuilder since when walking, his hands were far apart from the upper abdomen. He told the seller he didn't like films with skinny people, just big people. It made sense looking at his body. After the buyer left, it was Brian's time and he actually ordered more movies than he could afford. And the seller doing the transfer threatened to remain with the USB as ransom. So Brian had to find a way out. The seller left the spot for a while and Brian thought of unplugging the USB from the PC and running away. As soon as he tried, the seller was back and rebuked him for the act. After a long time, Brian convinced the seller that he would pay the remainder using airtime, and that was a deal. There had been a rise in Wi-Fi internet usage provided by Safaricom, Duku, and others. Brian's neighborhood couldn't access this since due to the cost, and most of these are offered in specific places, mostly affluent areas. For example, Safaricom's home fiber works in fiber-ready zones. Brian once visited an upper-class friend who has home fiber installed. He downloaded music videos to check out later when back to their home. He started getting addicted to the Wi-Fi internet. One day, out of curiosity, he switched on the Wi-Fi and noticed an open network apparently from a neighboring estate enclosed by a wall. It worked, but the signal was weak from their house and it disappeared from time to time. He figured a way to be near the estate was to sit on a concrete base that held a water tank just beside the road. One night at about 10 p.m., he was outside using the Wi-Fi. He did so for quite some time and decided to go home since it was becoming late. Once in the house, he found his father waiting for him with a silent face. The first question was, "Where are you from?" He started hesitating to give a response since he had none. He couldn't say he was using Wi-Fi because he thought his parents wouldn't recognize the technology. Standing there silent, the mother from her bed shouted she was with a girl. Trying to deny, his father whipped him several times, using a belt telling him to go and sleep. Crying in low noise, he found his sister, who laughed at him. The wild beast migration is a natural phenomenon that takes place annually in East Africa, where millions of wild beasts, zebras, and other herbivores migrate in a large loop through Tanzania and Kenya. On February 2015, a similar event occurred in Kenya, but this was in the technology space, the digital migration that involved Kenya's analog to digital TV switch. It required TV owners to acquire a set-top box to continue to receive television signal. The set-top box, also called decoder, included some from companies notably GoTV, StarTimes, DSTV, and Roku. GoTV and DSTV are under parent company MultiChoice. The only diversity they have is DSTV got more channels than its other counterpart. In addition to that, of course, it's pricey. MultiChoice is very reliable at times, except when it rains, the signal reception is null or very poor. In cases where you have a satellite dish as the antenna receptor, and of course, one can subscribe to packages of their desire. Each package got its price. Bran's dad gave him cash to purchase and connect the GoTV in their house. He now trusted him as the man of the house whenever the dad wasn't around. The recorder came with a remote controller, connecting cables to the TV, and an option of buying the antenna if you didn't have one. Inside the box, there was a manual which included instructions on how to install the antenna properly on top, outside the house, and connect it to the decoder. Some resellers offered after-sales service of fixing the cable connecting the antenna to decoder ready for plugging. After this, you had to let the decoder scan for channels after subscribing to a package, then watching was ready. There was a thrill in watching TV with channels like Triple P that had music programs where they played trending music. If Triple P had nothing interesting, he could switch to Kiss TV. Hello by Adele was played about 10 times per day on Triple P, given it was a massive hit. After a while, the GoTV's thrill reduced since Bran was also into soccer and major games were not aired in the available GoTV SuperSport channels. The other SuperSport channels that did have the major games were reserved for the DSTV, and Bran knew his dad couldn't buy it, so he never bothered to tell him. Bran joined high school, and while at school during entertainment sessions, he noticed something. The entertainment prefects and other guys had flash disks that now were a bit different. They had one side entering the USB port and the other side entering the phone's charging port. This worked as a media device on capable smartphones only. They were called OTG with micro B connector. Later, with adoption of USB Type-C, OTGs with Type-C connectors became common. During September 2017, another platform was launched, TikTok, but the boys didn't receive it very well. A large percentage of the boys in Kenya claimed it was made for rainbow guys and rebuked you if you are a guy using it. However, the main reason why TikTok wasn't famous in Kenya yet is because it was a startup and needed a bit of time in the game to convince people to join. This happened later due to its unique feature of vertical videos with its algorithm recommendations. These videos are short and easy to consume compared to long YouTube videos. Instagram and YouTube saw this edge that TikTok has and incorporated the same on their interface. YouTube has Shorts and IG has Reels. Instagram received more scrutiny from its fan base, who mainly are photo enthusiasts. They reasoned that IG is forcing them to become video creators by pushing Reels content compared to regular photos. Also, before, Instagram had a campaign of IGTV that failed. During holidays, Bran could visit other friends and notice they had smart TVs which worked like smartphones. They could access the internet and had streaming capabilities. You could also watch live news on YouTube. He tried to convince his dad to get one, although he knew the Wi-Fi part would be almost impossible to coax the dad about it. When buying the TV, his dad bought a Samsung one from where a business associate worked. The TV had the slim design of smart TVs but wasn't smart, so accessing the internet was out of the equation. His dad did this as most millennial and Generation X parents in Kenya depend on buying items from their friends' sources, believing they are the best when recommended. They don't realize technology changes and their kids are the ones who know most of what is popping currently. This didn't bother Bran, as now he wasn't that kid anymore. He could be with friends in town, events, chatting, and watching videos on the phone, going to hangouts with girls, and more. He went to town sports like Game Masters and Trick to play video games, and they have advanced from PS2 to PS3 to PS4 to PS5. In town, he also went to take photos with his group of friends. He somehow got involved in the Masoshi era, and all this I have covered in another video. Check it after this video. Nowadays, he is too grown for a beating from his mom and dad. One time, his mom found him with a girl in the house and just ignored without talking to them. Later, he was chastised by the dad, who said he never wanted to see the girl again, maybe because Bran wasn't 18 yet. GoTV payments weren't made anymore since Bran and the sister weren't interested in watching compared to when they were kids. Bran was the one making the payments since the others didn't know how or they were just lazy. Mom could demand the payment to be made once in a while so that she could catch up with Nigerian movies on Africa Magic. The Mabati houses where Bran resided were demolished as a plan of the government to build affordable standard homes. Bran's family wasn't the wealthiest, but he knew his father could afford a decent home. He was just a minimalist and liked their resident to be near the business he owns. Their surrounding isn't the best with Mabati houses and high-rise buildings. They upgraded to a bed-sitter, and by this time, Bran joined university and left to live alone to be near the campus. The electricity here is paid through prepaid tokens from KPLC. Fast forward to present day, November 2024. And Bran's dad bought a smart TV, asking Bran to fix it on the wall for the family. Bran had other appointments, so he couldn't manage attending to it. The next time he visited at night, one purpose being eating, as sometimes he doesn't feel like cooking in his house. He found the TV already installed on the wall and caught up with the family with the parents from work. The Wi-Fi talk entered the chat, and surprisingly, on another day, the dad called him to facilitate Wi-Fi installation in the family house. The mom also bought a Samsung smartphone earlier. Bran did all the work of going to town, purchasing the phone, screen protector, fast charger, and the back cover, since he knows mom is reckless. After a few months, mom called again. The phone somehow fell on the road while at work and got ran over by a car, making it unusable. He repeated the process of purchasing a new one. Same place, same phone. The affordable smartphones, smart TVs, the internet, modern storage, and ease of access of electricity and TV decoder services marked an important landscape in Kenya in the digital space, arguably the Kenyan dream. This also came with some disadvantages, like channeling the hype of local programs that once dominated Kenyan TVs, the likes of Machachari, Tahidi High, Inspector Mwala, and more. This hype went to online content form, TikTok, Netflix films, YouTube videos, and more. On July 2023, Elon Musk launched Starlink in Kenya, a satellite internet service which is competing with home fiber from Safaricom. Its growth is rapid within consumers. Bran has a YouTube channel where he makes investigative reports on events, and on 9th December 2024 at 9:27 p.m. he has just completed one on digital migration. On the desk, he has a SanDisk hard drive connected to the PC that is playing 25 minutes of chill dev music on YouTube. The PC he is editing on is connected to a Wi-Fi from a local distributor at a price of 1,000 Kenyan shillings per month, 12 Mbps speed. He also owns a mid-range Samsung smartphone with 4G plus capability, where he likes streaming music on Spotify when not on YouTube. However, there are smartphones with 5G capability, and Safaricom launched 5G in Kenya. He reads online books, mostly non-fiction, on the phone through an app called Lithium. There is a higher chance of him calling one of his WhatsApp contacts, and it will show ringing instead of calling, meaning the receiver is also connected to the internet. We are there indeed, but technology never stops. Today this is modern, tomorrow it is ancient. Like, subscribe, and watch this awesome video next.